Twisters. That's right, folks. The summer blockbuster of the season. I'm calling it now. I think this is going to be the one that a lot of people remember from this year. Maybe A Quiet Place Day 1. Maybe Inside Out 2. Yeah, and Despicable Me 4. What was I thinking there? I don't know. It's not going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. We're all going to forget about that. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Look, it's Twisters. It's Twisters time. 28 years ago, a Twister movie came out with Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. They're a bunch of cool kids trying to wrangle a tornado or something, just get data on it. And it turned out to be like a mega blockbuster that made a lot of money back then. So now a Legacy sequel. It's time for a Legacy sequel. And the box office currently, by the time of this recording, is looking pretty good. It's going to go up projections, which is impressive. I think it's because people like natural disasters, because it puts them in a place where they can think of what they do in that situation. Now that excites me because I like a good tornado movie. I love Sharknado. I like Twister. So I like all that stuff. I also like the cast of this movie. A bunch of young up-and-comers that feel like they could be the next things in Hollywood. I also like the director, Lee Isaac Chung. So when all of those come together, a legacy sequel for something that's a really interesting movie that is built to be a summer blockbuster with actors who actively want to pursue being movie stars, with an up-and-coming director who had a really good feature in Minari, could do something creative. You have a combination of stuff that gets me excited. It's a lot like A Quiet Place Day 1. You have a director who worked on a lower budget, now given the reins to like a franchise to tell an intimate and personal story. And while I didn't talk about A Quiet Place Day 1 on this channel, I really, really liked that movie. So it got me super excited for a couple weeks later. We're going to see another thing like that. A director known for like a personal flair and having an intimate story handle a big blockbuster. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. And then I saw Twisters and I'm like, oh, so we're kind of getting there. This is a very mixed bag of a movie. I think this is one of the few movies this year where I feel genuinely upset I didn't enjoy it as much as I did, because my anticipation was through the roof. I loved every aspect of the marketing. They had these actors going out and doing stuff. They were just on stage at a concert, shotgun and a beer. You know, like, it's exciting to see what they can do, and that's cool. And it's Twisters. It's not like a big name, but it's a name people know and people like that movie, so you could do something fun with it. And you just get this very intricate piece that almost feels too intricate and less loose than its original adaptation does. I like the first one more. And that's for a lot of reasons. I probably just grew up with it more and just spent more time in that world. But I think another part of it for me in particular is that original group from 1996. I felt more camaraderie. It felt less like cosplay. Does that make sense? It is a lot of just people coming together from different walks of life. They have the same interest. They're just a bunch of like nomads having fun out doing this crazy stuff. Where the two factions we see in Twisters that are actively pursuing the tornadoes are people scamming people for insurance money and YouTubers. And I'm like, that really doesn't get me excited about either of these groups, because it all feels fake. It all feels like a falsehood. We're doing this for the wrong reasons then. And then sure, eventually it'll become the right reason or whatever, but never feels great. So that is how you modernize it up. If I was going to compare this to one Legacy sequel, and it's going to be dumb. I don't know if anyone else is going to compare it to this Legacy sequel. This really reminded me a lot of Jurassic World, where it's trying to do the same thing, but in today's era with things that look like they're from today, with actors that are from today. It has the same problem that Jurassic World does, where every actor is beautiful and pretty and doesn't feel lived in. They just feel like they're on a set. Wait, look, this is also my fault for thinking a summer blockbuster, which I knew this was billed as being, was going to be a deep, metaphorical, thought-provoking piece. I was fooled. Like, that's on me. I should not have thought that. When have I ever thought that about another blockbuster? I just imagined, after watching A Quiet Place Day 1 and knowing this is the Minari guy, that we're going to get something interesting. But we really don't. We get a really basic script, and not a problem. It's a summer blockbuster. We have to hit the beats so your audience feels like they got their money's worth. So we know what's going to happen. There's going to be an inciting incident. This lady's going to deal with it. She's going to have to come back to this world, make up for past mistakes, have some things happen. And it does. I pretty much described the plot of the movie. But look, a lot of characters state their intentions as opposed to really showing us anything. It's a lot more of telling. There is a lot more of just depicting the technology, which is fine, I guess. You have so many of these great charismatic actors and character actors of today, and I just wish they felt less like caricatures and more like real written characters. I think two of them feel like real characters. The two leads, of course, but we'll get to that in a minute because I wanted to talk about the effects, which is a big part of this movie. It is important that you get the tornadoes looking good. I think they look fantastic. If anything, they look more cinematic than a real-life tornado. Now, I don't live in tornado country. I've never been around a tornado. I don't know how they look in real life. I don't really plan on knowing. But just seeing the weight and the scale that these twisters can get to, it really helps sell the destruction that's going on here. And it really amplifies that when we see the practical sets where every single house and barn or whatever is destroyed. It looks really good. And there are certain aspects with that where the filmmaking looks breathtaking, where we have sweeping shots, or we're panning around an entire person's perspective. We're doing a 360 around our characters. There's some very intense camera movements here, some really great stuff I really like a lot. Some great use of lighting. It's just beautiful to see everything come together in this really unique way. And that alone, you're like, oh my goodness, this shot where they're holding on for their life and it's just getting darker, zoning in on Daisy Edgar Jones's face. And we just see like the reflection of the kid and how scared the kid looks. I'm like, whoa, this is like real filmmaking. We're like watching somebody really have a vision for like the destruction going on around them. And then they just start talking again. And I'm like, oh, this loses it. It feels a lot like a movie, which I'm not going to be mad at. I know it's a stupid thing to say. Because sometimes I'm like, oh man, it's just great to have like a real feeling movie. And this does feel like a real movie in the sense that you could tell like this is what the script person told them to do. Like you have to have a sequence where these two fight, then they make up later to do a big reveal in the third act. You're like, yeah, it gets the beats done pretty well. But with some great cinematography, some great visual effects, and some great lighting techniques, this feels like a real movie. It looks very good. It's a shame there's some pretty choppy editing that don't really hold up well, but you know what? We're running in trucks and following people in some intense situations. It is framed beautifully. I love the way we film like the trucks and everything. Does it look like a Ram commercial? Yeah, it does. A lot, and that's kind of annoying. Gotta make a movie somehow. I can't be mad at it for that. I mean, Jimmy Buffett was in Jurassic World, so if a Ram truck's gonna show the Ram logo, I'm not gonna be upset by that. That is just how we make movies. It's just sometimes it could be exhausting, but it's par for the course. That's what you gotta do. So the editing, it's not great. Sometimes it's a little sloppy, but sometimes we hold on a shot for a long time. There are some great times we hold on shots and we really move that camera around, and man, does that look good. And there's other times where it's just like simple, whatever, nothing really going on, and doesn't look that great. But that's okay. The directing is not the problem with this movie. I think it lies with the limitations of what a blockbuster can be and what Universal, Warner Brothers, Amblin wanted this to be. They clearly said, well, we know what the beats are people want to see. You have to have an asshole guy. He's either going to be cool or nice, and then maybe there's going to be like a reveal of who the actual bad guy is. There's only so much we can do. So with what you're asked to do, I mean, you made it personal enough where I'm like, yes, I know exactly what this woman is feeling because she talks about it in every sequence, and there's more telling than showing, like I said. That does suck because I think a lot of that original film comes from just Bill Paxton wanting to show he doesn't love the chase, but then he's really into it the moment he has to do it. And it's a lot of that visuality as opposed to these leads where it definitely feels like Kate now has to like this again. like she went through something traumatic. I'm not going to spoil what that is, but the traumatic experience that opens up this movie, it breaks her where she's like, I don't want to go back to tornado country. She goes back to do some project for her old friend, and it's very by the numbers, the progression of her character, where things are going. I don't think any character has a real progression that doesn't feel obvious or nuanced. And that's okay. Again, it's my fault for thinking a summer blockbuster was going to give me depth in its characters. What is this? A Quiet Place Part 1? A brilliant movie that's about like how you can just feel miserable in like the end of time, so you just want to try some semblance of happiness for once in your life? It's not like that. This is just big tornado, we got to warn them, we got a big like rocket or something. And whatever. That's messy, but on the occasion, we get a beautiful looking shot that's well lit and well edited. I'm just like, oh man, this is everything I wanted. Looks so good in IMAX. But let's take a moment to talk about the next generation of actors, all of which are appearing in this movie, because it's pretty cool. Daisy Edgar Jones, somebody who could easily make the transition to being a leading lady. She's got the right, what would be like a modern interpretation? She's not really like Helen Hunt. I guess she's kind of Helen Hunt. She's got like a slim frame, so she could like really play into the role of like, this lady's small, but she could win. Sigourney Weaver, maybe? She could do like a Weaver run. I think Kaylee Spaney's going to do the Sigourney Weaver run. But whatever. What am I talking about? Let's just talk about Twisters. Quit going on about like the next generation of Hollywood. Look, she's good. What she's asked to do, she does really well. What she wants to do, she does really well. Is her performance brilliant? I don't think so. I think she gets the job done. She looks good doing it. She's having some clear, fun moments. When she's asked to play younger, that's when it really shines. I'm like, oh man, you are portraying somebody in their like late teens, early 20s really well. And I like seeing that, as opposed to you scared to do the job again. I don't really think that worked for you. But man, when we were just seeing like the webcam footage or like the camera footage that we like lost sometime, I'm like, yes, this is what I want to see from you. Where's this energy for the rest of the movie? Not like the snarky one-liner. Ugh, everyone has a snarky one-liner in this movie. It can get very annoying. Glenn Powell. Let's talk about Glenn Powell for a minute. The next Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise officially anointed him by telling him to hold up a popcorn bucket and just be like, smile. He's like a douchebag. He's like his character's name is Tyler. And he's like a tornado wrangler. He's like a YouTuber, and he broadcasts stuff. And you think he's kind of an asshole, but half of this movie is just him creeping up on Kate and being like, you're smarter than me, pretty lady. What are we doing next? And I'm like, that's a lot of that. But Glenn Powell is an attractive man. If we're going to have him in the rain, soaking wet, just walking place to place, I can't be too mad about the stuff we're making him do. This is my least favorite of his current works, like the stuff we've seen from him lately, like Anyone But You and Hitman. I like both those performances more than this one. I think what he's asked to do here is sufficient. He just doesn't have the Bill Paxton everyman charm because he's just too pretty. Anthony Ramos, what are we doing? This character was so messy, did not really serve anything, kind of wanted to do like a love triangle thing, but they didn't. He got worried, and they just really panicked with that character and didn't give him much to do. Kind of like, to me, the biggest mess, where it's like we open up with him here, he's now here. He's kind of just like a Deus Ex Machina to like get us to do certain stuff and have certain things happen. But you know who did stand out to me? I had two standouts. Now, they're not like the best performances because they're very one note. The two standouts to me, Brandon Perea as, was it Boney? Something like that. He's like the guy who goes, twins! We got twins! I like him. He was good in Nope. This guy's fun. He's got the charismatic energy where he was the only one of like that crew. I'm like, oh, this feels like a real guy. Because he's just insane and wants to shoot some fireworks. Like he doesn't feel anything. He's just having fun. I respect that. Katie O'Brien's also in this movie. I like her. I hope she gets more stuff to do. The other one that really stood out to me, David Corenswet. This guy's pretty cool. He played like a dick, just chewing gum and very monotone. I like him. He's got a very distinctive look to him. He could be a Superman, if you ask me. He looks like a Superman type. Bunch of other people, they're fine. The cast, I love all of them. I think they can all succeed at other stuff, but this is not a script that gives you a lot to succeed on. And one of the other big problems for me, like I said, is talking about like the original film. And I don't want to compare the two because they're very different. There's just something lived in every man about the original film, whereas these people feel too made up, where they're a little too perfect, too Hollywood. Nobody in this movie looks like a Philip Seymour Hoffman, and that kind of sucks. Everyone just feels like too perfect. There's also like a weird reporter guy from London who's just like, oh man, I'm so like prim and proper, and I don't know why I'm doing this piece on a tornado. It's so silly of me, blah blah blah, and he's just like vomiting. It's like, is that the joke? Is that the joke? Like, that's how far we've come with the joke. It's fine. But to me, the most egregious thing about this movie, and maybe this speaks to who I am as a person, is the constant fucking needle drops. Every other transition scene is a fucking needle drop. It's insane how many songs we play. There's at least 12 songs in this movie that we play for at least 30 seconds. It is a lot. And I'm like, these are all very similar sounding songs. Now, it's pretty obvious if you don't know me that I am not a fan of country music or that type of genre. Like when there are sequences at the rodeo, I'm like, this is fine. I like this. Glenn Powell's from Texas. Of course he'd be at a rodeo. But then when we just play every country song that I can't tell apart, it doesn't feel like it's adding to the movie. Now, I think the score is pretty cool. But every time a needle drop came on, I'm like, oh man, this would be better if like some orchestral music taking this in, or like original like country, like an original like country or folksy score, like using more of like those noises would be really cool, as opposed to dropping, I don't know, is Luke Combs in this? Is his song in this? Maybe. I don't know any of these people. I'm not against country music, and this is a movie that is about that, so using that is fine. It was over incessant and unnecessary, and that's where my problem lied. It's not that I'm not a fan of the genre. I'm not a fan of the genre. I'm fine when the movie is about that. We're in this part of the world. Let's talk about that stuff and use those songs. Maybe not that much, because it's kind of annoying and doesn't really work. But you know what? There was a sequence where we're in an old theater, they're playing an old movie, and then a tornado breaks in and blasts it. And I'm like, this looks kind of cool. That's kind of fun. Okay. You're kind of winning me over. It's so mixed. I should walk away being excited about like the future of all these actors' career and cinema and Lee Isaac Chung. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money. All of you are going to get work after this. I'm not upset by that at all. Just wish there was something extra to it. You know, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more special or nuanced. And, you know, the third act is very impressive to look at visually. And sometimes that's all you need. This was a packed house I went to. A lot of older people just coming out to have a good time. I think Glenn Powell speaks to older people too. Is it because he's so southern and charming? Maybe that's it. It's very interesting to think about. He's a good actor. I do really like him. I do really like Daisy Edgar Jones. I was super excited for this movie too. So it's very interesting that I just left feeling like, oh, that's it? Maybe if I didn't do this, or I wasn't so in the world of movies and television, this would work for me. Like if I was like Joe Schmo who goes to a movie every month, or like one movie a summer or some shit, this would work for me, where I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. Yeah, she like makes data and she can like put barrels into a tornado to make it stop. We just need more data and more barrels with like more. What do? They put like sodium something into the air so it rains and it picks up all like the humidity and it dispenses it or whatever. That's weird, and I don't know what that means. And if that's possible, can we do that in the real world? Probably not. It's just like a movie thing. So it's very movie, and if you are somebody who only watches movie like once a movie time, this movie would work for you then. But not like me, who goes to at least 2 movies every week and then watches like 3 of them at home every week. This doesn't do anything different or fun. And that's okay. Sometimes things just aren't for you, and we got to accept that and live with it. And that's what this is. It's just one of those things. It's not for me, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. It's a shame, because I really want to see this work for me. I wanted to put this in the top of my year, but it's just not. But that's okay. I'd still rather watch this again than Deadpool and Wolverine, a movie I haven't seen. I don't know. What's next for Powell? Running Man? Is that his next project? I don't know. Corn Sweat Superman. Katie O'Brien has nothing lined up. Daisy Edgar Jones, what she's up to? I'd like to see her lead something. Whatever. Twisters. I am going to give a 6 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.